That's
talk
what
about
real
like the mental
sustainability.
clarity, some other tangible things, not just only the weight. Maybe you had confidence, you had clarity. Talk about some of that stuff that also affected how you operate.
Absolutely. The clarity, there is such a different mindset when we go through the high fiber and nurturing our gut and so on, and also getting rest. Some of this is really deep down, we know these things. We know we need rest. We know we need sunshine, but culture tells us the opposite. But the mental clarity, it helps you to be able to put together your message and not feel sluggish, not feeling slow, and just being ready for anything. So in terms of eating real food, it's such a line these days that you are what you eat, and it's not a judgment, it's an opportunity.
Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I have Melanie Suzanne Wilson here on the line here. Super pumped to have her as a guest. You guys are going to love her story. But before that, I want to give everybody a gift. Everybody needs to watch this training I have down in the show notes about how to build a brand, how to grow online, because nowadays everybody doesn't see the billboard and the bus bench. They see the influencer, they see the marketing there and see the importance of it. And so really people don't know how to market themselves, and they don't know how to sell their services or their product. And so this training kind of goes over how to build an online influence. So check that out down below. Melanie, as we're jumping into the podcast here, tell me a little bit about like, what is high performance? What does that look like to you? How do you apply that to your life?
To me, high performance leadership and high performance living involves looking after ourselves holistically to then have a purpose-driven approach to caring for the world.
I love that. That's so good, because more often than not, people are oblivious really of what they're prioritizing in their life. And now, like you're a speaker, you're across the pond from most US people, you're in Australia, you help serve a lot of people locally, and you're expanding your audience more and more with your speaking and your coaching. And you help a lot of people right now with this holistic approach. Talk to us a little bit about like how you serve your clients.
I recently became available to help individuals after years of speaking, and the way that I became open to help people is by prioritizing looking after ourselves in a holistic way and going back to the essentials. So yes, we need to lead audiences and convey our messages to audiences, but we'll have the energy and the clarity and the focus to do that when we eat right and have the almost balance to look after ourselves to then look after the world.
I love that, because like realistically, most of the world are oblivious of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And they're just going through the world with beliefs, habits. They're going through, styles of things. If their parents were workaholics, they're running at that speed. Their beliefs and understanding, they're running at toxic beliefs. They're eating the crap that they grew up with that wasn't always the healthiest, and they're bogged down, they're stressed, they're overweight more than ever. And you give them some clarity and some point in that. Bring us to the very beginning of your story here, because you weren't always this way. You didn't have this speaking and this coaching program to help people before. Like, bring us back to those moments early on when you started noticing some of these things that you're helping clients with now.
Okay, my very beginning was that I started off in my 20s in Sydney, in Australia, with a relatively unhealthy lifestyle. I was speaking to groups from 2010 and earlier than that, but there was a standard of eat a pile of fries, a plate of fries, and then go talk to a group. I was rushing around. I wanted to achieve everything, but it was about the doing and not the impact. I was trying to be everywhere, and I rushed around so much that in 2017, I slipped in the bathroom and broke my leg. I still have metal in my leg now. It was a tibial plateau fracture. It's 1% of fractures from what I saw on Google. I was literally broken. And after that, I just continued eating what I was taught to eat. It was the shakes and fries, all those things. And I can tell you now, I was up 2 or 3 dress sizes above what I am now. I was just a puffed out balloon. I felt disgusting. And I remember the moment in 2018 when I was sitting at a table and I felt like I was going to pass out. I know that other health issues were happening as well, but I loved talking. I'd talked to groups for so many years, nearly a decade, and I had to just stop. I couldn't do anything anymore. Then in COVID and leading up to COVID, I stumbled upon a lot of videos online about whole plants and real foods. And there was nothing else to do aside from cook and go for a walk outside. Eventually, one day, I just weighed myself for the sake of it, just for fun. I weighed myself and I realized that I had dropped 20 kilograms. It's a lot of weight for those of you who don't do kilograms. I had really dropped weight. And so I didn't even identify as relatively thin for a long time.
44
I didn't see myself that way.
44 pounds in that's a lot. That is a lot. That's amazing.
It is. That's what happened. Moving forward, I gradually got back to what I know how to do after COVID. It was a slow journey. I started with a few Zoom groups and then I found communities locally when I settled in Newcastle, north of Sydney. And I prioritized looking after myself as I connected with communities. I learned from COVID and my isolation leading up to COVID, I learned that people need people and people need to share stories and share what they know, but we need to do it in a way that's going to sustain our well-being and the planet's well-being for a longer. That's what real
about, like the mental clarity, some other tangible things, not just only the weight. Maybe you had confidence, you had clarity. Talk about some of that stuff that also affected how you operate.
Absolutely. The clarity, there is such a different mindset when we go for the high fiber and nurturing our gut and so on, and also getting rest. Some of this is really deep down. We know these things. We know we need rest. We know we need sunshine, but culture tells us the opposite. But the mental clarity, it helps you to be able to put together your message and not feel sluggish, not feeling slow, and just being ready for anything. So in terms of eating real food, it's such a line these days that you are what you eat, and it's not a judgment, it's an opportunity.
And what I loved about what you're talking about is you took control for the first time in your life. You're like, hey, I don't have to eat this way. the shift of the upbringing with, the cereal or the junk food, the processed food to, hey, there's probably a better, simpler, healthier way to live your life. And you decided to make a change. And that made the change was a lot of the vegan stuff, but really you're just like, hey, how do I eat healthier and without it? And let me get your take on this. And I heard someone say this, that high performers, high achievers are like athletes that go to the Olympics, right? And if you're looking at the store, the Olympians And the right food is on the outer parts of the gym or outer part of the store, the grocery store. Anytime you go internally on the row in the rows is where all the processed junk is. So be elite and eat around the circles, which is where all the healthier processed refrigerated stuff is, and not in the middle of the store. I thought that was a cool analogy of like, if you want to take another level to your health, just be in the outer rings, be in the ring of the grocery store, and don't even be tempted going internally with some of the processed stuff that we all know and liked as growing up, but now shifting into that. What's your take on something like that?
I would do that and go further. It's really easy to skip the candy aisle and go to the vegetables. That's easy. If you want to take this to the next level, I get a box of organic, mostly local fruits and vegetables delivered to me from a small business nearby that's run by a family. It's supporting locals and it's grown nearby. I know some of the oranges are from a farm that's just somewhere between here and Sydney. I know where the food came from, and I can tell you now that the feeling and the taste and the experience and the energy is completely different. You could seek out something like that, but you might have a neighbor who you are friends with who's growing some vegetables in their garden. It could be as simple as that. I was at a community recently where there were some tomatoes, pardon my Australian accent there, picking some tomatoes from the garden, and someone was going to put that on the lunch, and it's from the ground. It's going back to how everything was designed.
And I like your approach there, because I think so often people are like, I'm overweight, but it's like nobody's forcing you to like put the food in your face, right? And I think people use those as like excuses. And I know for me, like I'm on the transformation, right now, like I'm on Project Visible Abs right now, and I'm not far away from it, but I was a dad bod and everything. And my environment shaped how I did stuff. My wife was really healthy, which helped, not have to like grow, like do a lot of like the junk food that I grew up on. And I just didn't think about it, but I had a setback. I broke my wrist, and, I surfed a lot. I was, in athletics, but that made me have a big setback and realizing, hey, my body is a temple. The Bible talks about, like, how can I think and process, or even a tank of fuel? Like if I put diesel in my tank or vice versa, like you're not going to operate at full function. Something's going to break down eventually, and so it's like having that healthy, like full whole foods, it makes all the difference. Talk about, Leah, your appetite toward those things, because there's cravings we get with sugar and processed things. And then talk about it, because it could be like hard at first, but then your body detoxes and then starts craving the whole foods. And then when you get then the sugar, then you're disgusted by it. And then you start craving it all of a sudden a little more. Like, talk about your journey and that what you teach with whole foods and why it's important to stay in that.
Yes, we do adapt. It can take a while. Initially, it is a decision you need to simply do what you know is needed. You start with the action and the choice, but also make it fun. Make it fun and remind yourself that this is accessible. I think there are the accessible parts, and then there is the decision, the self-control. That's the phrase, the self-control, because I'll be real with you. I was at a group last night, okay, and on both sides of me, there were people eating plates of fries. I did have to make that conscious decision. I did not eat one single piece of that. And I'm not telling you never treat yourself. It's not like that. But to be real, we live in a broken world where we will see those temptations, and it's not black and white, but in terms of what we can do, it's about the everyday habits. I love to blend a smoothie bowl, and that's my version of ice cream. It tastes delicious. You can make your own sweet potato fries with maybe a bit of olive oil, maybe oil-free. Some health people go completely oil-free. That's up to you. You can bake those in the oven and it's not fried and it's good for you. And suddenly you are enjoying fries. It's about having fun with the versions of these treats that will actually help you. And I liked what you said earlier about how this is how we were designed.
Yeah. So it's not cutting it out altogether. It's replacing. It's substituting the crap food for healthier versions. You like fries? Okay, let's make it ourselves without it deep fried and with processed and refrigerated for 2 years. That's going to just destroy your gut and make you feel sluggish and horrible and not give you that clarity and focus you want. Like when I started thinking about this self-care, like leading into this for this discussion here, is like I wanted to prioritize, like if I'm operating at my full capacity, I'm going to care for others better. So if I value my time, I value my body, I value the exercise and muscles of exercising, eating healthy, reading a book, praying, reading the Bible, spending and prioritizing, time with your loved ones. Like those are things that I anchor in with my priority in my checkbook and my calendar to make sure I'm prioritizing those things. And I know for me, the big shift was batching and pre-making my food, because the sirens call from parties and holidays, they ring loud and clear everywhere. Even like sports games with the kids, they just have junk food that they give out. And I tell my kids, hey, let's replace this. I'll go right to the health food store and we'll switch out that whatever for this instead. And they love it better, and they're starting to learn some of that better. It's like, and it's an identity shift, but it's also like creating new identity around everything. Let's talk about that a little bit, like with everything.
Yes. It does involve redefining yourself and also redefining some of the concepts that we use every day. Convenience. You talk about going to an event, going out in the community. There are those temptations, but there are also opportunities. I was going shopping briefly before an event yesterday, and I saw there were berries at the outside of the supermarket. It took me all of a few minutes to buy some berries to snack on. Now, a lot of people, even now, will buy the candy bar and call that convenient. They will say that's the only way to be convenient. I can tell you it was so quick. And some places near me, they will have a hummus dip with no preservatives. I'm giving you the specific examples because what I found as a vegan is I was definitely stereotyped as it must be some sort of special formula. You must be buying something different. And the myths that are busted online about healthy food are that it's not expensive and time consuming. We are busy people, especially when we are trying to achieve more in life. Yesterday, one of my favorite things was to make some guacamole. And look, I'm doing my simple Australian version. I'm not some sort of expert in guacamole, but get a fork, mash some avocado, squeeze a bit of lemon on. That took seconds, not minutes. We probably spend more time, or a lot of people would spend more time scrolling social media than a few minutes putting together a simple food. Redefine convenience, and then you can also redefine your preferences and yourself.
And if you have a hard time doing that, listener-wise, if you can't batch it, like that was helpful for me. Like in one day for the whole week, I just batched all my meals because then I just knew what I was. I didn't have to have thinking. I just had it. It was healthy choices. I feel good about the choices down to the ounce and gram that I have because I've measured it, planned ahead, got it down. If you don't have that, then you could hire someone to actually make these meals to then pre-plan and make everything. But it's easier to have a plan than not a plan. And I think that's what I think is so helpful. It's like really trying to lead into the day of like, how can I prioritize health? How can I think about shifting up with alternatives, all other things to control as many controllables as you possibly can. And I want to get your take on this. I've been studying recently, just talking about the health side of this. There's a study called like the blue zones. And this guy, Dan, I think Tanner, he has this book and research from National Geographic where they did sent out these analyzers all over the world to try to find out, hey, who's living the longest and what is the criteria of why they did this. And Netflix, I think he just came out with a series not too long ago with it. I read some of his books and I started researching some of this stuff. It's very fascinating. How do people live to over 100 years old? There's like 9 factors around it. One of them is definitely whole foods. A lot of them had gardens. They ate whole foods. That was kind of like how they lived really long. There was other criteria around purpose and family and faith and, having a good time and enjoying life. And I think people forget those facts because they're moving so fast that they don't prioritize and really kind of enjoy life as much as they can, but prioritizing that health in a holistic way, like you're talking about, I think is really, really key for people to understand and adopt and live their life to the fullest.
Yes, I followed the Blue Zones as well. One lesson that I learned from the Blue Zones is it confirmed that we need environments that support the right choices to make it easier. And it was definitely partly about the food. Again, if you need someone else to prep your sweet potatoes, then you are giving someone a job opportunity, getting someone else to do that, or you can do it yourself. And beyond the food, the Blue Zones people have been helping to design spaces, entire communities, neighborhoods. The equivalent over here, honestly, I live more than a few blocks from the beach. I wish I was right nearby, but the way that I give myself the environment to help my gut and my brain and my message is I don't mind bringing my MacBook out somewhere closer to nature and just bring yourself to the spaces you need to be in. You don't need to wait until you have made it, so to speak. You don't need to wait until your life is perfect to at least gain elements of the Blue Zone however you can.
Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation. It's fun to talk about health and prioritizing it. Tell us a little bit about how people can follow you and connect with you further and learn more of some of the holistic approaches that you really take and apply with your coaching and your speaking and all of that.
Absolutely. You can find me at melaniesuzannewilson.com and also on Facebook and Instagram. I'm using Instagram a little bit more, and I have got a newsletter, a sign-up form, and you can find me. I'll be putting a bit more on places like Patreon and Substack, so you can absolutely find the sign-ups on my website, and I'll keep sharing more.
I'll put some of those links down below. You can go connect with her fully. Before you leave on the podcast here, I want to give you that free gift, and just a reminder, if you haven't already gone to it, go check out that training, subscribe, like, write some reviews down if you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. Write down a comment. Increase the awareness, so do that more and more. We love and thank you for joining the podcast. Melanie, thank you so much for joining us and with our hearers. Again, we will see you on the next episode.